So I spent a weekend event in Mykonos with around 30 other entrepreneurs, all doing multi-six and multi-seven figures, typically all with marketing agencies. And I want to share 6 key lessons that I took away from that. Now, the reason behind this video, this is 6 lessons that I wish I had when I was starting out. For context, I run a digital marketing agency. We do lead generation and appointment setting. I do around $30,000 a month at the moment, but by the end of the year, I want to scale this up to $100,000 a month. And again, like, these are 6 key lessons that I wish I had, and part of the reason behind me making this video is actually just to reinforce these lessons in my head, because they are so powerful. These 6 things are the things that the guys who are doing like $450,000 a month at that event were all so good at, right? And I think this is the gap between, people who are making sub 10K a month, sub 20K a month, even sub 100K a month. They just often lack these lessons, these 6 things that I'm going to go over. So the first thing was, if I can highlight this properly, was the business model that you are in is not your constraint, your mindset is. This was such a powerful one for me, and I think this is particularly relevant to anyone who's doing like sub 10K a month, is that it can be so easy to blame the external. Be like, oh, my niche doesn't work, right? My niche is too poor. And I've made this mistake in the past, right? I've switched industries as well. I've made this mistake. And within reason, there's some validity to it. But if we're talking sub $1 million a year, it does not matter what industry you're in, what niche you're in, right? You can scale anything to $1 million a year, to $83,000 a month, even $100,000 a month. Once we're talking like getting towards 8 figures and above 8 figures, that's where it starts to make a lot more sense. Now, unless you have some like hyper-specific niche where it's like left-handed dog walkers who wear glasses and have a mustache in the San Francisco area, which firstly, if your industry is that specific, like, what are you doing? But your business model and the industry you're in is not going to be the constraint. Right? When we're talking sub $1 million a year, it will 99.99999% of the time be your mindset that is holding you back from growing the business. And I have some more lessons on exactly where that can be in a moment, but I think this has been particularly relevant for me, is that I always try to look at the issues in my market rather than actually just holding myself accountable and being, hey, like, the problems are with me. I'm the reason the business isn't growing. Right? And you might argue, oh, well, sometimes it's skill set. And yeah, for sure. Like, skill set can be a big reason behind why the business isn't growing, particularly sales and marketing. If we're talking getting to $1 million a year, most of the time your issue is going to be that you're not good enough at marketing, you're not good enough at letting people know who you are and what you do, or you're not good enough at selling those people on. Now, product obviously won't be fantastic a lot of the time starting out, but the product is what's going to develop as an iteration of having flow and having people to actually serve with your product. Right? Product will get you beyond $100,000 a month, but if you don't know how to sell and market it, then that's going to keep you on $100,000 a month. And I would argue that the skill set is a symptom of a bad mindset. If you don't have the required skill set, it's a symptom of a bad mindset, because you're just not spending enough time actually going and rehearsing the skills, or you're not doing it with the right intention. So again, like, I'm speaking to myself as well when I say this, is that, like, I know my mindset is the big thing that's holding me back. Whether that be avoiding the work that I need to be doing. Like in my case, I've got a sales rep on at the moment who's underperforming. I just spent a couple hours earlier today watching over some of his calls and reviewing them, and I realized that he is going off of process. He's just not probing enough. He's not getting clear enough on what their problem is. And a big part of why that's happening is because I wasn't holding him accountable enough, which came down to an issue with my own mindset. And it's getting a little bit, woo-woo now, but the big thing is to hold yourself accountable to why things aren't working out. It's not to do with, the industry you're in or the vehicle that you've chosen. If we're talking sub $1 million a year, the issue is you and your mindset. Okay, let's get on to lesson number 2. In fact, actually, just to give some more context on this, the reason behind me saying this is there was a guy at the event who, so I do lead generation and appointment setting, right? So we generate the leads. I've got a call center. We call the leads up, we qualify them, we get them booked in, and we work on a pay and results basis. So we get paid per qualified appointment that we booked in. Now, there was a guy who did a talk on a pay-per-lead model where he would just generate leads and sell the leads. And I was blown away by it, because I was like, wow, that's so simple. Like, imagine all the operational drag and complexity that I can get rid of by doing this. But then I put it back into context. It's like, well, if I look at switching my whole business model, I'd be taking so many steps back, because there's so many lessons that you learn and improvements that you make by just sticking with the same thing for a long enough period of time. So I could look at switching. And I really did think about it until I pulled my head out of my ass and I realized I was being an idiot. But I realized like the business model, because the business model I'm in now isn't the thing that's stopping me from getting to $100,000 a month, $200,000 a month, even $1 million a month. Like I know I can with this model. The issue is that I just wasn't committed enough to the industry that I was in and the model that I was in. So that's why I say the business model isn't your constraint. That's not the thing that's stopping you from growing. And it's so easy to get shiny object syndrome and you know, the grass is always greener on the other side. And I can say the same thing of when I switched from, I used to work with med spas, now I work with remodelers. I had the same thing. I was like, oh my God, it's going to be so much easier with remodelers. And like, it's the same. You know, they have slightly different problems, but it's the same problem in the same industries. The issue is me. Is that I wasn't able to make med spas work, and I tried to blame it on the market, but it was me. I was the problem. So, the second thing that I took away is don't focus on the outputs. Focus on being the person who consistently does the required inputs. I think I've always spent so much time glamorizing the idea of making, you know, $100,000 a month, and I want to make $100,000 a month and stuff like that. But it's so much easier to do that when you stop focusing on the end destination. And instead focus on becoming the person who makes the required inputs that you have to do each day to achieve that outcome habits. Right? Like if I look at myself right now, the thing I need to be doing every day is going through, I need to be reviewing calls. My closer, I need to review his demos that he's taking and his intros that he's taking. Reviewing them daily. Meeting with him daily, training him daily, making sure that he is hitting his numbers. But it's even going through and doing the inner work, making sure that you're spending enough time getting clear on what your goals are, looking at your data, setting up the system so you can track all the data that you need. But if you instead put the focus on the micro of like what you can be doing on a daily basis to get to whatever the goal is, it's significantly easier than just being like, hey, I want to get to this goal. Like focus on being the person who can do the inputs daily. Becomes significantly easier. Lesson number 3, this is a huge one for me. It's act fast, be aggressive, set the standard higher. I've always made the mistake of overthinking every decision far too much. And it has cost me a lot of money. Like I would be significantly further ahead if I had spent less time questioning myself, questioning my decisions. And there's two types of decisions. I think this is something that was made by Jeff Bezos. And I'm going to misquote this a little bit, but there's two types of decisions. There's type 1 and type 2. So I can't remember exactly which is which, but one of them is reversible, right? It's you can make the decision and then if it doesn't work out, you can take it back. So for example, this could be changing a question in your sales script, right? You can change a question and then you can take it back. That's fine. Like you can try it out. If it doesn't work, you can take it back. It's reversible, right? And then type 2 is something that if you change, it's very hard to take back. There's a lot of friction in undoing it. So this could be something like switching over to an entire new CRM, or even, you know, CRM is a really good one because CRMs are so sticky. They hold so much of your data and it takes so much time to set up. However, something even like your ad spend, if it comes to your questioning, should I increase my ad spend by another $100? Worst case, you can just turn it back down to what it was in a couple of days, right? The people who are the furthest ahead, and there was one guy at this event in particular, the person who was running it, who's so fucking good at this. He is so ruthlessly efficient with making decisions and acting fast. He has an idea, he acts on it straight away. And part of the reason of why that's so powerful for him is he can have this idea, he can act on it, and then while other people are sitting back, still mulling over the decisions 3, 4, 5 days later, he's already made the switch, he started taking action on it, he's got the feedback that's come from that decision, and then he's been able to make iterations and start improving it. So whilst most people still sit around actually saying if they should make the decision or not, if you act fast enough and you're just really fucking hungry and aggressive, you can make the decision, you can get the feedback, and you can start iterating before other people have even gotten started. And again, like this is such a key thing that I need to focus more on doing, even to this day. Like it's been a big thing for me is I overthink a lot, particularly with like small decisions that can be changed easily. So again, like these are lessons for me, and this is stuff that I wish I knew when I was getting started, and it's stuff that I still need to remind myself to this day. And I think setting the standard high is a really big one as well. I think I still fall victim to this where I don't set the standard high enough, and it shows up in your business, right? The business that you have is a direct reflection of the standards that you have in your own life and in your own business. So I was having some issues, again, going back to the issue I was having with my closer. He's been going off script, and that is a direct reflection of the standards that I hold for my sales process. That I haven't been holding him to a higher standard in terms of staying on the script and sticking to the process. So set your standards high and fucking hold them. People are only going to rise as high as your standards in your company. So if you've got team on and they're underperforming, it's because you aren't holding them to a high enough standard, and it's because you don't have high enough standards for that particular part of the business. So set standards higher and hold people to those standards. Right? And don't let them slip. This is a fun one. So there's a guy who did a talk on this. The lesson here is swipe the card, spend more, don't get emotionally attached to money or the business. Your decision making will be 10 times better if you lead with data and logic instead of emotion. So there was a guy who did a talk. It was really good. It is basically telling people, hey, like, stop overthinking so much and just make more decisions. Stop being so afraid of spending money. This is a big part of why I've now ramped my ad spend so high. And it's still fucking terrifying. Like, I'm still so scared of the amount that I'm spending on ads. Like earlier today, I was freaking out for a bit because I'm spending so much on ads. And it's scary. Of course it's going to be scary. But, I mean, fuck, if you want to grow a 7-figure business, a multi-7-figure business, like, you got to think. So many people try to start a business. Even if you're watching this now, how many friends do you have who have thought about starting a business or have started a business? Maybe they've started doing some outreach to people or whatever it may be. Very few of those businesses will grow to 7 figures, particularly in the online space, right? There's not many people who stick it through long enough to make it to the 7-figure mark. And the reason that they stop is because it's hard. Like they stop because it's really hard. It is draining on your psyche and on your emotions. I'm getting a little bit on a tangent here, but spend more. Right? If you get too emotionally attached to the money in your account, then you're going to act in that way. Like, you will not make the decisions that you need to make to grow the business. If you remove yourself from the emotions and you can think, okay, what do I need to do to grow the business? That is where you can act with, you're going to make much better quality decisions in that way. Right? Because realistically, most of the time when it comes to growing the business, particularly once you've got your process somewhat established, right? You know how to sell people, you know how to do marketing, you know how to actually fulfill on what you're saying you can do. Most of the time, growing just comes down to spending more on ads. Realistically. And if you don't know how to do those things, then oftentimes the best thing to do is actually just to spend money on a coach. And like, I don't do coaching, right? I'm not trying to sell you anything here. But I personally just spent a lot of money on coaching. And that's been a big proponent in actually helping me build the skills that I've been able to build. Now, I still don't have all the skills that I need. Fuck no, I don't have all the skills I need. I've got so many more skills that I need to build. But like, oftentimes the easiest way to build skills is just to swipe the card, man. Spend money. Go in and work with that coach. You're going to fast track your success so much more. Because when you spend more money, whether it be on ads or on a coach, what you're ultimately doing is you're shortening your feedback loop. You get feedback faster. Right? You make a decision. If you've got a coach, you make a change. Right? They actually help you review what's going on and help you review the feedback that's coming through, and then make iterations based off of that. If it's with ads, you start spending more on ads. You put more ad spend in, you get the feedback faster in terms of what your cost per click is, what your cost per schedule is, what your cost per lead is, whatever it may be. You get that feedback faster, and you can make iterations faster in terms of what ads are working, what ads aren't working. You can double down on everything faster. So oftentimes the best decision for the business is just to spend more money on whatever it is that you need, whether that's building the skills within yourself or putting money into ads or whatever it may be. This was a really big one, and it's a really scary one. Like, of course it's going to be scary to make these decisions. And like, don't be an idiot with your money. Like, you still need to be smart with it. But a lot of people are too like tight-fisted with their money, and they refuse to let any go back out, or as much as they need to go back out. There's a guy who I was staying with. I've been traveling around with him for the past couple of months. He's a psycho. He's an animal. Like, he's doing really well. And his mindset is one of the best I've ever seen when it comes to his self-belief and the way that he grows his business. So when he was starting out, he was, at the start of the year, I think he was doing only a few thousand a month. Now he's doing about 50,000 a month. And one of the big things that he used to do is he would go and look at how much money he has in his account, right? He would divide that by 14, and that would be his daily ad spend. So let's say he had $14,000, right? Just for sake of simple maths. He'd divide that, and so he'd get $1,000, and he'd spend $1,000 a day on ads. Despite the fact that he still had payroll, despite the fact that he still had overheads and software costs. He would spend all of that on ads because he would have so much belief in himself, and because of that he was able to grow so fast. So like oftentimes, man, just like spend more, swipe the card, don't get emotionally attached to the numbers, focus on the data instead. Right? Don't get emotionally attached to money. It's just going to be so much harder for you to grow if that's how you're acting. Lesson number 5 is that you're the product of the people you surround yourself with. Choose wisely. Right? This has been a really big one for me. So I've just spent the past 5 months traveling. Right? I was in Europe. I went to Bali, to Dubai, all different countries in Europe. And a lot of the time I was traveling around with other successful entrepreneurs, people who are doing multi-7 figures, multi-6 figures, and being around them and understanding the way that they work, the way that they think. For me, it's been huge. It's been so helpful. And just by being around people like that, you're going to start picking up better habits. Right? Like the people who are operating, particularly like the multi-7 figure mark and multi-7 figure range, they just operate differently. Right? They set higher standards in their own life. And that's how they're able to do those numbers. So being around them, being around their standards, being around their mindset, it has a bleeding effect onto you. Like you start picking up some of their habits and some of their beliefs. Even with that guy I was talking about who he would divide his bank account by 14 and spend it on ads, spending time around him, because I was living with him for about 2 months, spending time around him, seeing his mindset in terms of how much he trusts himself just to make shit work, right? Just his self-belief that no matter what, he will make things work and it will all work out. It's been really good, right? And even just talking to these people, having conversations with them around just like the current state of the business and having them call you out on your bullshit when you're playing too small. It's such a huge thing, and it's such a huge difference from, spending time around people who all they want to do is just fucking party and drink. Right? I've made that mistake in the past. I've spent time around people who all they want to do is just drink, and again, like that rubs off onto you as well. So the people who you spend the time around, you're going to end up being like them. So look at the people around you, decide, okay, these are the people that, like, is this what I want my life to be like? If not, make some changes. And then lesson number 6, your reality is a direct reflection of the quality and tonality of the thoughts in your head. Make them good. You can force your brain to think positively. Using subliminals is a cheat code to success. Now, I've always tended to be a bit of a pessimistic person, and I'm very self-critical. So this was something that was really important to me. I tend to beat myself up and get like quite down in the dumps about things. And like, what benefit does that have? Nothing. Like, yeah, I still struggle with this sometimes as well, but the thoughts that go through your head directly impact how you act on a day-to-day basis, and that directly impacts like what your life looks like. So what I'm trying to be more conscious of doing is actually auditing the thoughts that go through my head. If I find I'm getting into a cycle of being overly self-critical, or if I'm just being negative, or if I'm just being an idiot, like I try to be mindful of it. I try to check myself and be like, whoa, like, how is this actually benefiting you thinking like this? How is this serving you? And it's setting up, like, I think a big thing is just being more mindful of the thoughts that are going through your head and just thinking like, hey, how is this actually helping me having this line of thought? Like even earlier today when I was starting to stress about my ad spend, right? I wasn't looking at the numbers. I was just going off of feelings. And I was like, oh, fuck, like this is a lot of money to be putting out. And like, my close is not closing as much as I want to. And I had to check myself and be like, hey, like, how is thinking like this actually helping me and helping the business? It's not. It wasn't. It was just emotionally taxing. So I just did something to try and change my mind. Like for me, I sat down, I put on this visualization video that I watch on YouTube. I put it down and I just tried to pull myself out of that situation, out of that thought process, recenter myself on where it is that I'm trying to grow to, who it is that I'm trying to become. And then after that, I just started acting more in alignment with that. So just be very careful of the thoughts that go through your head, because again, they directly impact and dictate the actions that you take on a daily basis. If you're constantly being negative, then you're just not going to be acting with the same intent and the same speed and etc. Like, this is such a powerful one for actually determining what your reality looks like. Like, seriously, ask yourself, if you're not where you want to be in life right now, have a think about like how you've been thinking for the past couple of days. And then think about the dream version of you. Whether, let's say your goal, for example, is to make $10 million. What would that version of you who's making $10 million, how would they be thinking? Would they be thinking the same way as you? Would they be thinking as negatively as you are? I doubt it. If you're someone who struggles with thinking negatively about things, I highly doubt it. Now, a cool thing that you can do is use something called subliminals. This is an idea I came across it from, might have been Nathan Nazareth or it was someone. Anyways, what I did is I use ChatGPT a lot for just like auditing my thoughts and going over my goals and beliefs and all of that sort of stuff. So I got it to pull together a list of subliminals for me, which are essentially affirmations that just talk about who I am, what I'm capable of, right? And this is like a future state of me, what that person is capable of, what they do, how they act, all that sort of stuff, the beliefs that they hold. And then I read them out in the present tense. I actually recorded it. So I just had my microphone here. I sat down one night and I just read them out. Okay, and then I got that audio file. I put it over a certain wave. I can't remember, it was a certain wavelength. It might have been like 432 hertz or something like that. I think that sounds about right. I'd have a look into it. I can't remember exactly. But then I just turned that into an audio and I listened to it. Right? And that can be such a good thing for actually training your brain to think differently. So I try to listen to that day and night. So once first thing in the morning, once right before I go to bed. And if not, then I also try to do a visualization thing. Because again, I just find for me, when I put myself into the shoes of what like the dream version of myself looks like, I can really notice the impact that it has on how I think. If you actually like visualize yourself in those shoes of like what you want yourself to look like, you will start thinking and acting differently. So yeah, a bit woo-woo, but I really do think the subliminals have been a big thing for me that I've noticed over the past couple of months. And I'd say visualization has been as well. So I sort of want to give some context to all of these. These are lessons that I'm still trying to teach myself these. Like these are lessons that it's just like constant reminders that you need to give yourself when it comes to them, right? And I'm not where I want to be right now. But these are the things that I try to remind myself of on a daily basis so that I can get to where I want to be. And I know that by reminding myself of these, I will get there. So this is the stuff that I wish someone had introduced me to when I was younger and had like sat down and told me when I was just getting started. I think I would have been a lot further along if I was. So yeah, I don't know. I hope you found this helpful. I'm going to try and start putting a video up like this every week. Again, just to force me to sit down and reflect more. Because I think reflection is one of the most powerful things, and I haven't spent enough time reflecting over the past few years that I've been doing this. So yeah, I don't know. Hopefully you got something from this. If not, damn, that sucks.